She Said was directed by Maria Schrader and stars Zoe Kazan and Carey Mulligan, and I'm very excited to give you guys my review for this movie. If you've seen it, be sure to leave a comment what you thought about it. As well, be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Now let's get into this review. In this movie, two New York Times reporters break one of the most important stories in a generation, a story that helped ignite a movement and shattered decades of silence around the subject of sexual assault in Hollywood. So I got to check out this movie in theaters the other day, and I thought it was great. This movie reminds me a lot of All the President's Men, which I know other people are saying as well, and it very much feels like that movie in a good way. It feels very similar in that you got these two reporters like doing an investigation into a sort of then mystery of stuff that was going around, and I found it very compelling. Even though I knew what the outcome was, this movie did a very good job of still making it feel compelling and at times kind of suspenseful, just waiting for things to happen and if they're going to happen, even though in the back of my mind I knew what the eventual outcome was. But I thought it was just great. Like I said, it felt like All the President's Men in a good way, just focus on a different topic. And this topic, as I said in my introduction, was the sexual assault in Hollywood, which has been very big in the past several years. And this movie I thought was great. The two leads give excellent performances, and all the supporting cast give great performances as well. And I found this movie to be quite emotional and disturbing at times. There's definitely moments where they don't show anything, but they describe things, or you hear some audio recordings, and it can be quite disturbing, and I think it needed to be to help, I guess, hit home the importance of this, and which it could be maybe difficult for some people watching this having to hear that, but I thought it worked for this movie, and I wasn't quite sure what to expect. I was expecting to like this movie because a lot of people have, but I liked it a lot more than I was expecting. This was a movie that, like I said, I knew what the inevitable outcome was going to be because it's based on a true story, but it had me engaged most of the runtime. Like right from the start, I'm engaged. It did a good job of even building on the characters, showing what their home lives were like and how doing this was impacting them. I thought that was fantastic, and as I mentioned earlier, they even have like a mystery that we all know what it is, but this movie just did a good job that got me invested. That is, like, I forgot that I knew it, and I was just invested of how this movie was progressing. I was like, ooh, what are they gonna get here? Are they gonna be able to, release this article in time and stuff like that? And I thought this movie did a very good job of just how it executed its story, because again, I knew what was going to happen, but I sort of forgot about that while watching this. And as I mentioned, the performances were great, especially by the two leads, and this movie, as I mentioned before as well, did a great job of giving depth to these characters because they're based on real people, and I like that this movie did take time to show their personal lives. There are definitely moments that I really appreciated with one of the reporters having moments with her daughter and having some conversations, like when her daughter says something that's related to what she's investigating, and having a bit of a conversation with her about stuff like that. And I thought it handled itself quite well with that. Just one, giving characters depth so you're interested in the characters, but I thought it worked for this story as well, and sort of highlighted what some people have to go through and what they need to teach their children, if that makes sense. But I thought that was very good as well. As for issues I have with this movie, I only have one issue, and that is it does feel a bit too long. I think this movie is about 2 hours and 10 minutes thereabouts, and it did feel a bit too long. Towards the end, there were some scenes that they were important scenes, but they felt like the same scene we got a little bit earlier, just with a different character, but they're doing the same thing. So maybe if it was edited in a different way, it would have not has been as repetitive at times. It wasn't a lot. There's just a couple of scenes like that, and then there was a point in the movie in the final act where it felt like, okay, we're about to wrap up now, but then there were other things that happened, which I get they have to do that, or they wanted to do that if that's what actually happened, but it's just like when you think you feel the natural end coming, and then it goes on for a bit longer. It starts to feel like, oh, okay, it's getting a bit long. But that wasn't a huge issue, and that might be an issue that will be less of a problem for me on rewatch, because I know that's what how long the movie is and what goes on in the movie, that I'm expecting that. So it wasn't a huge issue. It didn't detract too much. And like, as for me, the story I thought was fantastic. The execution of this movie I thought was very well done, because it had me gripped, and I knew what the outcome was, and it had me gripped and invested in what was going on. I still had times where I was like feeling like nervous about, oh, are they going to get all the information? Are they going to get the report out on time? Stuff like that. But obviously they did. So that was great. The characters were handled very well, in my opinion. The performances were fantastic. I highly recommend people check out this movie. I think it is an important one to see. I thought it was great. It's one of my favorite films of 2022. For me, I'm going to give She Said an 87%. So those are my thoughts on She Said. I think it's great, and again, I recommend people check this movie out. If you have seen it, let me know what you thought about it as well. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel, and be sure to stay tuned for some more reviews coming soon. And until my next video, take care, everybody.